Good morning, grade 5s. Today we are going to be doing character sketches and some language as well. Just like your other videos, this is divided into two parts, so you can do the first half today and the second part of it tomorrow. Please remember before we start to get a pen as well as your workbook. If you don't have your workbook, please get your jotter. Remember, everything we do on the slide needs to go in your workbook. So put down today's date and then you'll see the heading now. Alright, before we go to language, today we are starting with character sketches. We've done this in class. Remember, we looked at various characters in books that we've read before. For example, we looked at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where we looked at Willy Wonka and the other various children there, and we discussed whether we liked them or not, what the character was like, okay? So we use character sketches in order to understand the characters in a book or movie better. So let's have a look at the definition. What is a character sketch? A character sketch is a brief or short description of a person's qualities. It helps you understand the character in the story a little bit more. So I might ask you, if you've read a book, I might say, please draw a character sketch on the main character so that I know what they're about, and then I can start understanding what the story is about as well. When doing a character sketch, it's very important to bring up certain points. So I want to go through them with you. Like in the last videos, I want to first go through all the work with you, and then you're going to copy down the notes. Alright, so pay attention, listen carefully, and look at the points as they pop up. Right, points to mention when writing a character sketch. First of all, physical appearance. What do they look like? Height, size, eye color, hair, anything you can think of that tells me about their appearance. Appearance is anything physical. Not about if they're kind or helpful. I just want to know what I can see on the outside. Next is actions. What does your character do? Are they a good character? Are they a hero? Do they save everyone? Do they hide in the background? What type of things does your character do? Next thing is personality. Personality is now what's on the inside. Is that person kind, aggressive, friendly, or mean? And it's always important in a character sketch to explain how you know this. My character is kind because whenever there's a problem in the story, they always want to help other people and make sure that they're okay. Or my character is mean because they bully other people in the story. It's always important to tell me why you know that and how you found that out. And the last thing, do you know anything about their backstory? What's happened to the character that's important to know? How did they grow up? Where did they live? Now, in every story, you won't always know this, but with the main characters, they normally do tell you a bit of the backstory. How many siblings did they have? Did they grow up with their parents? Did they have a good family life or a bad family life? And these kinds of things are so important to have. So, before we move on, I want you to pause. You're going to take down the heading character sketch. Everything I've put in color, you can put in color as well. And I want you to take this note down in your workbooks, please. Right, to make sure that you understand, I'm going to go through two different characters with you. These are two characters that we've spoken about in class, so it'll be quite easy for you to pick up points and do a character sketch on them with me over the video. So we're going to look at two characters from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I chose these characters because we've all read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We did it in class last year, so it shouldn't be too hard to come up with some ideas. Now, before we start, I want you to think back on the 4 points that I've mentioned on a character sketch. Quickly try and think if you can remember all 4 of them before I pop them up on the screen. Okay, here they are. First, we've got physical appearance, which is their looks. What can I see on the outside? Then we've got actions. What do they do in the story? We've got personality. How are they on the inside? Are they kind or honest or hurtful or mean? Then backstory. What happens to them in the story that is relevant or necessary for us to know? A lot of the main characters go through certain things, and that helps us understand their personality. And you'll see what I mean now as we go through these two characters. So the first character I want us to look at is Charlie Beckett. Okay, and he's obviously one of our main characters because the book is called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So before I show you my character sketch that I've done on him, I want you to look at the 4 blocks that are on the screen there: physical appearance, actions, personality, and backstory. And I want you to think of your own character sketch for him. You might want to pause the video, jot down some ideas in pencil on a separate page, or just think in your head before I pop my answer up on the screen. Okay, so here's my small character sketch on Charlie Bucket. For his appearance, I said that he was skinny and had dark hair because that's what they say in the story. I know my picture shows that he's blonde, but in the story it does mention that he has dark hair. Next, for actions, he finds the golden ticket and wins the competition. Those are his biggest actions in the story. If you mention something else, like he got a chocolate for his birthday and then he didn't find a golden ticket, he found money on the side of the road and then got a golden ticket, anything like that where you're explaining his story a little bit is fine. Just remember, actions does not include backstory. We need to know his main actions in the story, which is finding the golden ticket and winning the competition. Then for his personality, he was great. There was nothing really wrong about him. He was kind and honest and helpful and caring. So those are the things that I've mentioned. If you've mentioned anything else positive, that's fine. Last one was the backstory. We knew that Charlie Bucket was very poor. He only ate cabbage or cabbage soup, and he lived with his parents and 4 grandparents. So those are the things I could mention about him. Right, next I want us to look at a very, very different character. We're going to look at Augustus Gloop. Now we know he's very different to Charlie, so let's go through his character sketch. Before I put it up on the screen, I want you again to come up with your own in your head or write down some ideas. Look at the 4 blocks on top of the screen, the physical appearance, actions, personality, and backstory. Maybe pause the video and then play it again to have a look at my character sketch on Augustus Gloop. Right, so here it is. With his physical appearance, I said that he was stained with chocolate and that he was a big child. Okay, in the story, we always get told he's got chocolate around his mouth, and every time they show a picture of him, he's got chocolate somewhere on him. So that's why I mentioned that point. Then for actions, he finds the golden ticket, he falls into the chocolate river and gets sucked up by the big tube. If you mention anything else, like he just eats and eats and eats, then that's fine. But remember, his main action in the story is that he goes to the chocolate factory and then falls in the river and eventually has to go home. Right, let's look at his personality. He's very opposite to Charlie because we don't really see that he's kind and honest. What we see from him is that he's stingy. Stingy means that he doesn't like to share things. He's always hungry, and he's not a good listener because his mom and everyone shouts at him repeatedly to not go to the river, into the chocolate river, and he still does. And the last part, his backstory. We don't know too much about him, but what we do know is that he eats a lot of chocolate bars every single day because it is mentioned in the story. When he finds a golden ticket, his mom says, oh, he eats so many in one day. So we knew he was going to find the golden ticket. Right, you don't need to write this down in your workbooks. This was just a nice activity for us to do together. Okay, now you know exactly what you're doing. We've gone over a definition for a character sketch. We've done this in class and we've done one together now. You're going to now do one on your own. So have a look at the instructions that are going to come up on the screen to see your activity that you need to do for today. Okay, it says, write a character sketch on any one of your favorite characters. Your character can be from a book or from a movie. Please make sure that your character is appropriate. I do not want characters from PG movies that you shouldn't be watching. Alright, so any character you like from a book you're reading or a movie that you watched last week or one of your favorite movies, whatever it is, but please make sure you only choose one. Next instruction, you're obviously going to do this in your workbook. Remember, you should be doing all notes and activities in your workbook. So in order to fit this in your workbook, you're going to fold your page in half. I'm going to give you an example of what this should look like once we've gone through your instructions. Okay, so you're going to fold your page in half, write your character sketch on the left hand side and draw a picture of your character on the right hand side. Now have a look. This is what it should look like. Once I fold my page in half, on the left hand side I should have character sketch on, and then I can name my character. What do they look like? I need to write that down. Actions, personality, and backstory. Please make sure, especially for actions and backstory, that you're not giving me one-word answers. I need some nice sentences there. Don't be lazy with your work. Put in effort. I know that you can do it. Then on the right-hand side, you are going to draw a picture. I've put in brackets there 8 to 10 lines. Sorry, 5 to 8 lines. So you can either do 5 lines, 6 lines, 7 lines, or 8 lines. Not less and not more, please. Now I'm going to put up some ideas on the screen for you. You don't have to use these. They're just ideas that you can look at to help you with your character sketch. Once you're done your character sketch, you're done with your activity for today, but please go through it carefully. Make sure you put all your information down, make sure it makes sense, and look at your spelling as well. Okay, so today we took a note on what character sketches are. We did a character sketch together, and you've done your own character sketch. Once you've done all of that, you can rule off and take a break for today. Come back tomorrow for your language section. See you then. Okay, so yesterday we did character sketches. Today we're going to be looking at subject and predicate. Remember, we've looked at this in class before where we focused on subject, verb, and object. Now, subject and predicates are not very different. The subject stays the same, where I say, well, the subject is what the sentence is about, and the predicate is really just the rest of the sentence. So I'm going to go through a definition for each with you. Once I'm done explaining it, I'm going to tell you to pause and get everything down, okay? So let's first have a look at a definition for subject. Subject is a noun, so it tells me who or what the sentence is actually about. So I've put an example there for you. It says, Mrs. Whiteman is teaching us. The subject there is Mrs. Whiteman, because the noun or what the sentence is about me teaching you. Okay, we've done this a lot in class. You should know how to pick up the subject. It normally comes at the beginning of the sentence. Not all the time, but most of the time it will. All right, now let's have a look at predicates. Predicate is what the subject is or does. It includes the auxiliary verbs and objects. So basically my predicate becomes the rest of the sentence. So if I've got a sentence and I've got a subject, for example, Mrs. Whiteman, the predicate in that sentence will then be is teaching us, because it includes the verb is teaching and then the object, which is us, which is you as learners. Okay, so the predicate includes your verb and your object, and an easy way to remember that is that the predicate is just the rest of the sentence. So the main point, the sentence only has two parts. The first part is your subject, which is your noun, what or who is your sentence about, and then the next part is your predicate, which is the rest of the sentence. Before moving on, I want you to pause and take this note down. Remember that this is the first part of our work for today, so after yesterday's character sketch, you should have ruled off. Put today's date, your heading is subject and predicate, and you can take the information down. Where I've used color, you are welcome to use color as well. Okay, now to make sure you understand, we're just going to do a little bit of practice. So have a look at your instruction. It says, look at the sentences below. Use two different colors to underline the subject and the predicate. Please make sure you stick with your color. So if you use blue for subject in one sentence, you need to use it for all your other sentences. And then you can use green or red or whatever you've got for your predicates. Just make sure you stick with the same colors, all right? So I've got 6 sentences for you. You're going to rewrite all 6 in your workbook, and once you've rewritten them, you can underline your subjects in each of them and your predicates in each of them. A big note to remember, your subject is what or who the sentence is about, and your predicate is the rest of the sentence. Often your subject comes before your predicate, so read very carefully and make sure you're taking your time. Now I want you to pause the video so you can take down all your sentences as well as do your answers before playing again, because I'm going to put the answers up on the board. So pause the video and do your activity, please. Okay, here are your answers. Let's have a look. Sentence 1, Susan caught the ball. Now I've used purple to underline the subject and blue to underline the predicate. So Susan caught the ball. My subject is Susan and my predicate is caught the ball because it's the rest of the sentence. It includes my verb as well as my object. Caught would be my verb and the ball would be my object. Now for today, if you're still a little bit unsure about verb and objects, that's fine. I just want you to understand subject and predicate for now. I am, however, going to bring up verb and object because we have discussed this in class, okay? Number 2, my brother is 10 years old. The subject is my brother and the predicate is 10 years old. I include my in the subject because it's a specific, I'm not talking about anyone's brother, I'm talking about my brother, so it's included in the subject. Number 3, the star burned brightly. The star is my subject and burned brightly is a predicate. Number 4, Mike played the guitar. Mike is the subject, played the guitar is the predicate. Number 5, the kite flew high in the sky. The kite is the subject, flew high in the sky is the predicate. And then the dog barked loudly. The dog is the subject and bark loudly is the predicate. If you need to, please take some corrections down. If not, we can just move on. Okay, so I've got one more bit of practice for you just to make sure that you understand the difference between subject and predicate. Have a look at your instruction. It says, look at the sentence below. Write whether the underlined part of the sentence is a subject or a predicate. Now, please don't rush. Go carefully. Make sure you're paying attention to all the instructions I gave you. And if you're unsure, go back to your notes and have a look. To complete this, you're going to write each sentence in your workbook, underline what I've underlined, and at the end of the sentence, you can either write subject or predicate in color. So before moving on, you're going to pause the video, write all your sentences down, underline what I've underlined, and write your answer at the end of the sentence before pressing play again, because I'm going to put the answers up. Okay, here are your answers. In sentence 1, I underlined Mike. Now I know that Mike is a noun, it's who the sentence is about, so it is a subject. In the second sentence, I've got the orange basketball bounced high above over her head. I know that the underlined part is a predicate because the orange basketball is my subject. Remember I said if you're unsure that subject often comes first, so you can figure it out that way. Number 3, the glass of milk spilt all over the table. Spilt all over the table is a predicate because remember there I've got my verb and my object. So that's another way of making sure you've got it right. Number 4, the noisy plane is my subject. And number 5, my new flute is the subject as well. Please put down a correction if you need to, and if not, we'll just move on. Okay, this last bit of practice is a little bit more fun because you can be a little bit more creative. So let's have a look at what you need to do. It says, complete the sentences below by adding the missing subject or predicate. Now, you can make these funny. Remember, we've done a few of these in class. We've made funny sentences and added on to subjects or predicates or objects or verbs, okay? So you can make these funny, but please make sure that they make sense when you read them and they're not too silly, okay? So in some of them, I've put a subject and then there's a line because the predicate's missing. And in some of them, I've got a line and then information because the subject's missing. Remember, if information is missing at the beginning of the sentence, it's most likely the subject that's missing and there's already a predicate there. So you need to add on a subject. If I've got information, for example, let's look at one of your sentences you need to do. Number 1, the children. The children would be my subject. So now I'm missing a predicate. You can add anything there to the end. Don't make your sentences too long and make sure they make sense. At the end of each sentence, you need to put a full stop, and at the beginning of each sentence, you need to have a capital letter. So you've got 5 sentences there. I'm not putting up any corrections for this. I want you to go through your sentences carefully, make sure they make sense, make sure you started with capital letters and you've ended with full stops. Right, the next part of language we're going to look over today is not going to take us very long. Again, we've done this in class, and it kind of goes with our subject and our predicate portion of the work, because now we're looking at subject-verb agreement. So now you know how to identify the subject, you know how to identify the predicate. Now we're going to look at not just identifying the subject, identifying the verb, which you know how to do very well because we've done it many times, okay? So let's have a look. We've gone through subjects and predicates. Now we will look at subject-verb agreement. The verb has to agree with the subject for the sentence to make sense. Now we've done this in class, okay? For example, if I'm saying the boy eats sweets, I can't say the boy eat sweets, okay? Because I've got a certain subject, that's either a single or a plural, my verb has to match that. So I want to go through 3 different rules that you can use in order to make sure that your subjects are working well together. And you guys are normally very good at this, so I think you're going to do very well in this part of the lesson. So the first rule is add s to most verbs if the subject is singular. Like I said before, the boy eats sweets, not the boy eat sweets. Okay, this is using that same rule. So you're adding s to the verb if the subject is singular. So there's your example, the dog walks. I cannot say the dog walk. Because the subject is singular, the verb adds an s. So in brackets I've said, if there is an s by the verb, there is no s by the noun. So you just need one at a time. Here's your next rule. Do not add s if the subject is plural. So if the subject is singular, you add s to the verb. If the subject is plural, you take away an s from the verb. So my example is, the dogs walk. Okay, very similar to my first one, but now those s's have swapped places. So I'm only having one at a time. And the last rule, do not add s if the subject is I or you. For example, I walk the dog or you walk the dog. Right, so these are your 3 steps or rules to remember, and they're going to be helpful when it comes to subject and verb agreements. So before moving on, I want you to skip a line, write the heading subject verb agreement, take the 3 points down, and then you can go on to the next part of the lesson. So pause, take your things down before moving on. Thank you. You are nearly done with today's lesson. All I want you to do to finish off is this little bit of practice, practicing subject and verb agreement to make sure that you understand. So let's have a look at what you need to do. It says, correct the sentence below by rewriting them with the correct verb or verbs. Where there are more verbs, you might have an auxiliary verb and a verb that you need to change. So look very carefully. Here's an example. If I give you the sentence, the star burned brightly, you can hear it's incorrect. There's an issue with my verb. The verb is burn. So now I need to change it so that the sentence sounds more correct. So it's going to change into the star burned brightly. And changing this doesn't just help my subject-verb agreement. It gives me a more clear idea on whether it's past, present, or future. So it gives me a better idea on tense. So let's have a look at the sentences that I want you to rewrite in your book and then correct those verbs for me. Number 1, the dog walked down the road. Number 2, Andrew ran down the hallway. Number 3, Karen write the sentence perfectly. Number 4, Sam are going to kick the ball. And number 5, the owls hoots in the tree. I hope that already by hearing them you say, oh, that sounds rather strange and those sentences sound silly. They do sound silly because the verbs are wrong. So when you rewrite them, change your verbs. If you're not sure and you're a bit confused, once you've written your sentences, circle those verbs and then you can just change them on top by crossing them out or writing the word at the end. But it's very important to find the verbs first so you know exactly what words you are changing. So I want you to pause the video here, get all these sentences down, rewrite them with the correct verb before moving on because I'm going to put the answers on screen. Okay, so here are your answers. Number 1 will change to the dog walked down the road. Number 2, Andrew ran down the hallway. Number 3, Karen wrote the sentence perfectly. Number 4, Sam is going to kick the ball. And number 5, the owls hoot in the tree. So we didn't use our S rules in all of those, only really the last one where we saw owls was plural. So we had to take away the S in the verb. With our other ones, we've either changed them or we've changed certain letters or added on an ED. That's still fine. The S rule I just gave to you so that you can clearly pick up on sentences where they might sound correct if you say them fast, but they're actually not correct, especially with number 5, the owls hoots in the tree. If I say that really fast, it might sound correct, but once you know your S rule, you know that a plural noun cannot go with a verb that ends with an S. Okay, so take your corrections down if you need to, and then you are done for today. Okay, before finishing up, please go back and make sure you've got all the notes and activities that we've done for today. I'm really proud of you for working hard, and I cannot wait to see your books when you come back to school that you've done everything. Remember, I did say you could use color, so go back, make sure you followed instructions correctly. Have a very good day, and I will see you on another day in the week to do the next lesson. Goodbye, grade 5s.